Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We got a few people still connecting here, so give it just a moment. All right. Well, my name is Jen White. I'm the Director of Student Engagement at the Manufacturing Institute. Welcome to our August segment in our Solution Series. These are designed to bring together manufacturers to share insights, discuss challenges, and highlight solutions that are shaping our workforce. And we are thrilled to have you with us here today. Before we dive into today's discussion and introduce our panelists, I'd like to take a moment to briefly share about the Manufacturing Institute. The MI is the Workforce Development and Education affiliate to the National Association of Manufacturers, and we're dedicated to building and strengthening the manufacturing workforce of today and tomorrow. To support our manufacturers, our scope of programming, collaborations, and innovative research include four main pillars. Heroes Make America connects transitioning military members, veterans, and their spouses with manufacturing careers in a variety of ways, but we offer certification programs and career readiness training to help them transition into the civilian workforce. Our Employee Engagement Initiative is a strategic effort to help manufacturers strengthen their workplace culture to attract, retain, and grow top talent. Within this initiative, we have our National Awards program that recognizes women and allies in manufacturing, highlighting their impact from the shop floor to the C-suite. Mentorship programs to help manufacturing employees build their skills and networks. And we also provide manufacturers with tools and best practices to build high attraction, high retention workplaces where employees feel valued and supported. FAME, or the Federation of Advanced Manufacturing Education, is an employer-driven earn and learn apprenticeship style program that trains students for advanced manufacturing technician roles and enforces a holistic employee with key professional behaviors, soft skills, and manufacturing core exercises. And finally, workforce innovation, which is where student engagement also falls. This portfolio of innovative solutions helps our manufacturers through second chance hiring best practices, workforce policy, employer-led community workforce development strategies, and student engagement. Today's event is a collaborative effort between the MI and Timken, focused on engaging the next generation of manufacturing talent. Finally, just a couple of housekeeping reminders. We will be recording this webinar and we'll share a link with all registrants after the event. All participants' microphones have been muted upon entering the meeting. We encourage you to enable speaker view in the top right corner of your screen for the best viewing during discussions. And lastly, there is a chat feature which can be accessed from the bottom of your screen, where we encourage you to post discussions, resources to supplement today's conversation. So I'm excited to introduce to you our panelists for today. We have Michelle Reinsel, who is the University Relations and Co-op Manager, Jep Mapisat, Human Resources Manager, Joanna Hallisey, Senior Application Engineer, and Madeline Weilman, who's a Senior Quality Engineer, all from Timken. So thank you all for joining us today. And just to set the stage a little bit, as we talk about how to attract the next generation of manufacturers, this is something that we think about frequently, but also there's such a need to hire talent today that sometimes it's hard to think further into the future as well, and justifying the ROI on that. So excited to have this conversation with you all today. But let's talk a little bit about understanding what students want and how we can connect their interests to manufacturing. I have been able to witness firsthand some Timken strategies specifically to Manufacturing Day, which is, I think, a great place to start today, as we are less than 2 months away from Manufacturing Day, which we'll be celebrating the first Friday in October, so October 3rd this year. So you all take a great community approach to that, which I think is something that we all can celebrate, that we're going to be the most effective when we work together in communities. So, Joanna, let's start with you. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you see um, kind of motivating students when they're exploring their career paths?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that the Great Lakes Science Center Manufacturing Day is a great place to start. So, depending on like the level of engagement or the type of event that you have, you want to start at kind of like a higher level. So when we first started to kind of participate in that manufacturing day, we went in with like a very focused approach on what Timken is and what we do. And we saw that we were having issues with engaging the students. So like this is a an event where there's 30-minute blocks and like you have rotating groups of about 30 elementary to middle schoolers. So it gets pretty hectic. So we were finding that we weren't really engaging them by having that type of kind of curriculum activity. So we ended up pivoting to a more like general build activity to engage their creativity and other skills to make like their own ideas become a reality. So we kind of went from like a more stringent view to kind of a higher level view due to the type of event that is. But for students that we know that like already have an interest and may know what they want in a career manufacturing or engineering, we take a deeper dive. So an example of that is Timken hosts a engineer for a day activity, where basically we invite students from the greater Northeast Ohio area, and go through a building tour, a build activity, and engineering shadowing. So we really kind of get more into the weeds of what does a career in engineering or manufacturing look like. And then also another way to motivate students is by showing up. So there's been quite a few exercises or events I've worked on for next generation STEM activities where I'm not planning the activities myself or with a group, but I'm just coming into the community or organization and volunteering my time. So an example of this might be like I've done with the Girl Scouts or I Promise schools where they have STEM activities, or even like career fairs we've been to focus on career exploration at like University of Akron or the STEM day at like the Guardian Stadium. So there's a lot of different types of events that are just hosted in the community that we're just showing up for and volunteering for.
And so that's a great community look at it. And then you all do a good job too of kind of drilling down at the more local, like plant level as well. Madeline, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Thanks, Jen. Yeah, so I'm at the plant level. I've been at several plants with Timken. And we're already generally fairly involved in the community. People come in and they work, their families know about Timken and know about the kind of product that we make. And one of the things that we do with Manufacturing Day specifically is we will bring students in to take a tour of the plant, get a feel for what it is that their parents, aunts, uncles, whoever do, and we'll kind of show them, what would it actually look like if you worked in manufacturing. Um, Plants will engage with also schools to get that effort. So, like a local school, like a shop class, or students who are in interested in going into like a trade school kind of route. Those are the students that will often come in, and we'll kind of just show them like Timken's programs, like the evolution of raw material to finished part, and get students excited about how they could be involved in making that happen. You can see them kind of get interested in, oh, well, this person does that and that person does that. And yeah, I'm familiar with, general basic concepts of, um, GD&T type of stuff. They don't touch exactly in their high school classes, but they definitely get bits and pieces of it. So yeah, that's kind of how that works at the plant level. You, Jen, you're on mute.
One of these days I'll learn. Michelle, how do you and Timken work to align manufacturing careers with students' aspirations, be it in STEM, technology, wanting to work with their hands?
Yeah, so Joanna and Madeline really talked about creating that initial impression of manufacturing, right? So, where I step in and my team develops further is once the students are older, long or more developed in their career, right? They're going to high school or they're in college. How can we start to take that interest that they may have started with manufacturing day or engineer for a day, right? And be like, okay, I want to experience this a little further. The first is what we call our technical training program. A lot of other companies have versions of apprentice programs, right? And this is working directly in a production environment, manufacturing shop floor, doing various different activities to expose the full operational spectrum, right? So you may be looking at inspection, you may be looking at working and operating a grinder. What are our material handling practices? What are our heat treat practices, right? And we have students, what's really exciting is we partner with them their junior year of high school, usually in conjunction with a vocational school. So local high schools programs, right? And where they would be doing shop class in that vocation, we allow them to come on site to Timken and fulfill that requirement with us. So it's mutually beneficial. They're receiving their educational credit. At the same time, we're letting them meet our team, we're letting them understand our process, etc. And then at the end, when they're ready to graduate high school, we have a job opportunity for them that can lead right into future employment. That even can be taken a step further where if they're interested, they can start to enroll in our educational reimbursement program and go the college route. Or many times they say, hey, this is where I want to be, and they find a full-time role in manufacturing. The second kind of subset of students that we support is our college students who are really already committed to the STEM field, usually in the form of engineering. And Timken has a very thorough co-op program. We also have interns across the business, but the co-op program, what's really unique here is that it's multi-rotational. So what that allows the students to do is craft their own plan and get different experiences all at the same time while working at Timken. So they really enjoy being able to hand select. One rotation, they may work directly on the shop floor. The next, they may try more of a support function in supply chain or purchasing. And we're modeling for them, okay, when I'm done with college, where do I want to be and what role supporting manufacturing do I select? So both have been very successful, kind of different profiles of students, but all encouraging working at Timken and in manufacturing.
Thanks. And Jep, I want to come to you. STEM is a very popular term that we hear today, especially, when working with the next generation. But not everyone sees their career field as a STEM field. So what should we be discussing with students beyond STEM?
Specifically in manufacturing, it's not the most glamorous industry, right? Nobody says they want to grow up and become a machine operator, right? And honestly, people just don't know what they don't know. So I think being able to highlight some of the innovation, some of the AI space that we're getting into, and how those things are shifting and evolving the way that we work, right? um, I think that's really neat to share with them. I think how how the next generation wants to engage in the work field. They want to have purpose. They want to be able to change the world, be a part of a shift, and with this and sharing things like, hey, our parts are in the Mars rover, right? Or something as simple as, did you know that factory down there makes Cheetos? And so, I mean, it's silly, and we've all been in manufacturing for a long time, and that's all we know. But it's really cool to see faces light up when you say something as silly as, "Oh yeah, those are my favorite chips," or whatever, right? So I think engaging them in that way that they can see themselves in that world and know that, okay, manufacturing is not stagnant, right? It's evolving, it's innovative. There's spaces where we're leveraging the new technology and kind of getting them excited about that.
Joanna, do you want to speak real quickly on that too?
Yeah, sure. So the way I see like STEM is kind of like the buzzword, it's like, oh, there's boom, like big flashing lights STEM. So the way I say it though, it's like it's the opening of the door for us to then like showcase like what manufacturing is. So like there are a lot of cool topics related to tools, resources, technologies that we can then showcase at these STEM related events. So in Timken's case, we may not be like the Tesla or like the NASA companies who are like making the final product. But what we do provide solutions for those products that people are familiar with. So students may not at first know what a bearing is, but with a little engagement, we can get there by showcasing what we do for different markets and end users.
Awesome. Well, Ira is actually behind the scenes here going to launch a poll for us. We would like for the crowd today to share with us what you believe most motivates students to consider a career in manufacturing. So if you will select your response there and we'll see where we land. A little bit of everything at the moment, but we are definitely leaning towards opportunities to work with their hands or with work hands-on with technology and equipment and a clear career path with growth and advancement potential. As I mentioned, though, there are definitely several responses in all of these categories, which I think another important factor is that every kid is not the same, too. And we really have to step back a little bit to get to know them a little bit, to have a conversation and help them to open up to us too. So let's allow everyone there just to see real quick. So as we dive in, as Jeff, I think it was maybe you that mentioned, that manufacturing isn't always something that people step out and say, that's what I want to do, in my career. And so how do we showcase manufacturing as an exciting career path? Let's talk a little bit about that. Joanna, I'm going to come to you. How do you demonstrate how manufacturing integrates technology, innovation, and problem solving?
Yeah, so I think, depending on the audience, we've seen like a lot of success in using hands-on activities. So if it's middle school, we've been using this catapult build where we give these students like basic build instructions and then have them have the ability to make changes to improve upon the basic design with like more rubber bands or more popsicle sticks. So utilizing some of the materials that we have on hand to then kind of make their own design changes to try to accomplish the goal of launching the ping pong ball the farthest. So, but with high schoolers, we can use the same idea of the catapult build, but we give them more autonomy in making their own solution to solve the problem of launching that ping pong ball farthest. So we give them a whole bunch of different materials with different like costs. So we give them like a certain number of like tokens or dollars, if you will, and then they have to take that consideration to, okay, I want to build within my means of my budget, but I also want to accomplish the goal and kind of managing that. So we've seen success in kind of that hands-on activity. Another one that we've done too is for the engineer for a day build activity. We split the students into groups about like 5 and have each group build a specific Lego vehicle to accomplish a goal concerning like a Lego special piece. So one of them is like you have an Amazon drone and like you can't, the Amazon drone has to like leave the car without hurting your driver and like you can only lose a certain number of pieces. So we give each person in the group basically their own responsibility. So they have their own role of manufacturing engineer, quality engineer, sales engineer, application engineer, test engineer, and they're all kind of focused on their own different like goals at hand. But then they have to work together as a team to make sure that they accomplish the goals of the customer for their special piece of the vehicle comfortable, but also not stepping on the toes of the other kind of group mates. So it gets pretty good. It gets a little chaotic with the Legos and, lots of tests and falling apart, but that's how they're learning and kind of developing those skills, I'd say.
How about you, Michelle?
Yes, students love competition, right, Joanna? So my advice to you is to be creative. And today's students are have very short attention spans, so they're trying to learn things very quickly, right? So one thing that we've done that's been very successful is we created an interactive wheel to help demonstrate some of our applications at Timken. So think of that prize wheel at the bank or at an insurance company, right, that you spin for a prize. Well, we have segmented each segment of the pie and put a picture of one of our Timken applications. Of course, there's some of the more glamorous or well-known. So you may have an electric vehicle or a wind turbine or passenger rail car. And as the student spins the wheel, they land on an application. And then I pose them with a question. Where do you think Timken makes product in this application? Sometimes they know right away, other times they don't, in which case I'll pull out a sample product, I'll kind of play with it in my hands, explain what a bearing is or a piece of chain, right? And then we have a conversation about that application and what Timken is. Much more meaningful than saying, have you ever heard of Timken? Let me tell you, Timken makes bearings, right? And then I'm like backpedaling on what is a bearing, and it just creates that immediate engagement. And so lots of different creative ideas that you can think of in your own similar spaces that can engage the students quickly can go a long way.
Madeline, coming to you. What do you do?
Yeah, so we'll do kind of like what Michelle's saying, and Joanna, you got to get them pretty involved. So the opportunity that we have here at the plant is we can actually grab one of those parts and say, this part here goes in this application, and show them the pictures, and we can bring in buzzwords and things like that, get them excited about friction reduction, as much excitement as you can get about that. But we'll kind of be able to talk to also how we get there. So not just the machining, but some more of that like exciting, innovative technology type of stuff that students are really hoping to see. So one of those big things would be like cobots. We have been kind of growing the cobot application in our different plants as we're going through. One of the things that we do to increase that is our operations development program, which is kind of an early career growth. It's a 2-year program. In one of there's 4 6-month rotations. In one of those rotations, these individuals are able to actually implement a co-op, kind of get the business case for how it goes into the application. Basic idea is that it just does simplistic modern movements, but showing students how we do that actual like problem solving and project work to get that to an actual ideated solution, and kind of tying in some of those things that they might see online or in their classes if they do like a Lego build or something like that, really helps them connect to what they're learning.
Ira, if you will go ahead. So if you all have your phones nearby, Ira's got a QR code up there that you can scan, but I would love to hear in one word from our audience, maybe 2 words, because one word can be difficult sometimes. What do students need most to get excited about a career in manufacturing? What should we be giving them more of? And this is a way I would say, that we can learn from one another too, things that you're all seeing out in the field as well. So feel free to throw those in there. Feel free to throw in multiples. Up in there too. We got hands-on AI. And AI is so, it's scary for us adults, and I think it's important that we teach kids to safely use it, but they're going to be AI native. Um, So we have to become confident in it. Exposure, early engagement, mentoring. We're going to get to mentoring soon. So go ahead, you can keep adding in there. But as I said, mentoring came up there too. Let's talk a bit, if we can. Jeff, can you talk a little bit about the power of mentorship and role models and helping, like, how did you end up in manufacturing?
Yeah, I actually it's a funny story. 20 or so years ago, I started working at the Power Bar plant. It's Hearthside now out in Boise, Idaho. Nestle owned it at the time. And I just wanted to hang out with my best friend. And I thought, hey, she works there. Why not get paid for hanging out with my best friend, right? And that's how it kind of got started. And in some circumstances, I crossed paths with one of my mentors early on in my career that really became the catalyst for my career, I think. Rohit Reddy was his name. And just one day, we're walking the line and looking through some waste stuff. And he said, what do you want to do with your degree? What do you want to be when you grow up? Right. And just like that, he became kind of the cheerleader, the one that kind of opened the doors to um, other connections and networks. And I joined the OMT program, the operations management training program at the time, a long time ago. But yeah, I think we can't, especially those of us who's been in the industry for a long time and has a lot of experience. And you don't need to be a leader to be a mentor, right? I think just giving them the insight, giving them the support. It's that little conversation that maybe kind of may not be a big deal to you, but it's a huge deal to someone who just needed that little bit of information or that little bit of support, and you become the catalyst in their career. So a little bit different how I ended up in manufacturing, but wouldn't change it for the world.
I love that. And mentorship or mentoring, sometimes has this like, it needs to be a specific program or I need to have a mentor assigned to me. And that's just not the way it has to be. Like, yes, there are those opportunities, but two, mentorship comes in so many different ways. It can be very informal, just as a quick question of, what do you want to do? Right? Um, Michelle, how about on your side?
Yeah, so I get the privilege of meeting with a lot of students all day long. So my perspective is a little bit more from the mentor. And I just always try to keep myself in check that every conversation is meaningful and that the impact, you're not really familiar with how they were raised or what background they may have from a parental or a teacher standpoint, right? So each conversation is impactful and take that as an opportunity to, if you're really frustrated with something that they did, tackle it head on, right? Have a direct conversation with, like, hey, that's not really what we do here. Let me explain to you what you did and the perception that it caused, and here's what I would do differently. They're still in a very moldable part of their life, right? So I think oftentimes we're like, oh no, like we can't talk to them. No, I think being direct, being impactful right away makes a world of difference. And then we see rotation after rotation. The best part about my job is watching them blossom, right? And coming back and saying, hey, I want to work at Timken full time. It's like that conversation was worth it.
And as we talk about, again, talking to kids and helping them kind of work through what their future is, manufacturing can sometimes, there's so many different environments that you could possibly work in manufacturing. Um, and not everyone wants to be in the same type of environment, but sometimes the manufacturing environment, um, can be a challenge to overcome with what they have in their mind or where they think they want to be. So let's talk a little bit about how do you sell them on that as a career? How do you speak to them about what may be considered a less favorable environment to work in?
So, I'm going to change my hat for a little bit. I didn't get to share exactly my history, but part of my career is that I was working in a manufacturing plant for several years in the HR capacity. So, not only in today's role attracting college students and high school students to Timken, but prior attracting production workers, operators, etc., into the plant. One thing that I've really found that worked is to be realistic. And I am not ashamed to admit that I found that by doing it wrongly at first. So I used to hide and give away fancy trinkets and say that Timken was the best place to work, right? And instead, what would happen is people would join the organization, have an unrealistic expectation, and then quit a few months later, a few years later, whatever. So I completely spun my approach 180 degrees and really focus on being fully authentic and fully realistic now. I never give an interview in manufacturing without a tour of the facility. In fact, I try to walk them all the way to the machine in which they'll operate. I want them to meet the person that they'll be working with, whether that's the first shift operator that they'll be handing off to or the supervisor who will be leading their team, right? So that when they join the job, it's a two-way decision. They're deciding, is this for me? This similarly as we're deciding if they're for us. And it's really been beneficial, really showcasing with their own eyes, right? Here's what we have to offer. We're not sugarcoating it. It's real. We have a lot of great things to offer, and here's what those are. But also, this is where you're going to work.
I love that honest approach, and I think it saves everybody time. It saves everybody money as well. So thank you for sharing that. I want to transition now. We've talked a little bit about working directly with the students, but earlier we also talked about how important that community approach is. And to have successful community partnerships, you're going to have to really to develop relationships as well with other organizations. So we talked a little bit earlier about the Great Lakes Science Center. I know you have a really strong working relationship with them, but also other organizations in the community. Can you, Joanna, talk a little bit about how you start building relationships with schools or other organizations like that? And then how do you nurture those relationships to really highlight the manufacturing side of things?
Yeah, so there are like multiple ways to start those relationships. So we have a good working partnership, like you said, with Great Lakes Science Center. We've sponsored I Promise Schools Makerspace and have multiple different resources and technologies for the students there to use, like 3D printers and different kinds of build kits. And that's where, I talked about earlier about kind of just showing up. So when they have like availability for STEM days or they are like having some type of activity in that space, like we want to be a part of that too. So, we're always kind of looking for those different in which we partnership in. Similarly with Girl Scouts, we have a similar kind of sponsored makerspace. I was actually able to go to the building not too long ago. It's really cool and work with the girls building these like little like pickup like biodiversity kind of activity. It was very cool. So a lot of times it's showing up, it's showing support, it's being involved in manufacturing day. For a different kind of approach with schools. So for Engineer for a Day, that's an event that Timken hosts themselves, and has been for multiple different years. Being on the planning committee for that, though, we have a list of different schools within the area in which we contact, and we kind of basically just send out emails. We have the guidance counselors emails. Because this is a reoccurring event, we've built more rapport over the years. So they're, anticipating that email, knowing that that event's coming up. But I think we just started with, just different types of, we knew different types of school had different classes, like engineering, intro to engineering classes. So like we would, they express interest to us about it. So sometimes it's us, sometimes it's us going to them. But then over time, it's building that, rapport together. Just kind of getting involved too, I would say, in like manufacturing day. Like there's a lot of different manufacturing companies that are represented in that space. There's a lot of knowledge sharing going across, there's a lot of resource building, networking. It's really great to be involved in some of those events, because not, you're seeing different students, you're having different activities, you're getting different ideas. It's really just, I feel like you're just uplifting the whole manufacturing community as a whole, like the companies, the students, everyone that's involved. So I think that's kind of just some of the areas in which like we've kind of developed partnerships or kind of worked towards a better relationship.
Madeline, do you want to give a little bit of like the university recruiting perspective too?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I actually got connected to Timken through university recruiting. Just happened to be walking around the career fair, saw a booth, figured it was some good practice on talking to somebody and, learning about whatever their company was, and kind of history from that. I had an interview and started working after that. And I've had the opportunity to go back to my alma mater, Texas A&M, go Aggies, several times to kind of be that person, be on the other side of the booth, on the other side of the interviewing table, and really finding students we look for both co-ops and for full-time careers at the university recruiting. But one of the great things with going back multiple times and specifically with the co-op students, which I was, is that you get to see them over and over again. You get to build that community, build that network. We usually have a dinner with the students who have previously gone through a co-op or have interviewed and are going to be joining pretty soon. So that's a great way to get them connected, not only with us as a company, but with each other, and to then communicate further on and have that connection of like, hey, as they're working for the company, do they have a friend who knows somebody who could help them with a problem? Or can they reach out to Michelle? Can they reach out to me? Whoever it is, we really foster those relationships year over year. And then after the recruiting period, so after Timken, after we've all gone home, the co-ops are, after they've also gone home, after their co-op rotation, they can then talk to their friends and say, hey, this was my experience with this company, and kind of get the word spread from there. And we've had a lot of success with that ripple effect at universities, especially by being able to go back year after year.
And that's some advice that I would share, not just, at the university and with the co-ops, but in general, take advantage of the relationships that you already have. I think most of us know somebody who works in education, probably, be that a teacher, an administrator, a counselor, and use those to your advantage. That's your foot in the door. But oftentimes, many people working in education have not been in manufacturing. They don't know exactly what it looks like today. They maybe have those negative perceptions. And so we can work with educators to show them the career opportunities, the possibilities for their kids, and how they can change their life trajectory in many ways. But yeah, it's not always starting from the ground up per se, where you have to go and hunt down a person. Like ask somebody that's already working in a school to introduce you to the counselor, to the administrator, whoever it might be. But too, yeah, those young employees too, let them go back and talk to the kids at their school where they came from, and you talk about like an immediate connection. The kids at that school are going to listen as well. So let's talk about the importance of highlighting these early career opportunities and how that can lead to long-term success. MI research shows that kids make a lot of choices about their future and their career fields based on their own personal experience. And so it's important to give them those. But Michelle, do you want to start on this one?
Yeah, so I never thought that my role would be considered a content creator, but here I am. So now that I am frequently working with the new generation, I am finding myself having to put myself in their shoes, right? And so I am having daily conversations about what kind of videos to create and who to do a quick bio of, or who to get a snapshot of their opinion on what we did at this activity, to use on different socials. But I guess my main takeaway or suggestion is that behind the scenes effort needs to take place. So just having natural, authentic conversations don't always get you all the way over the hump, right? So one of the things that we do as part of our semester-long co-op program is that we take each of our students on a few plant manufacturing tour. We call it a road show. And what I found was the first time I went, we would, just say, hey, we'd like to take a tour of your plant. I have this many students coming from our headquarters, etc. And the content wasn't what I was looking for. So the next time I stepped in a little bit further, right, and said, hey, here's the goal of the tour and what I would like to be covered when we visit your facility. Then it continued to improve, right? Then I said, hey, so-and-so was a really great tour guide. So-and-so was a not so great tour guide. I would like to be this tour guide. But all with intentionality, because I am step by step building the narrative that I want the students to understand, right? I'm finding somebody who has that skill to connect with young people. I'm having the person who is positive and not like, oh man, it's been a rough day, so and so called off, right? We kind of want to keep that out of the conversation, not to cover up my other point of being realistic, but we do want to be positive and share the positive attributes here while we're on a tour. So don't feel like just because you insert yourself and create the content a little bit how you want it to be scripted, that's a bad thing.
Jen, we can't hear you. Was it me? I don't know.
It's you.
It's me.
You are the chosen one.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I think at least in terms of, early career opportunities or leading to long-term success, a lot of things we do hands-on activities. In my opinion, people who are interested in manufacturing engineering, they have a knack for that, are a lot of visual learners, physical learners. So I think that we've had a lot of success in offering things that, the kids can get their hands on, whether that is an activity, whether that's a final product, like piece of equipment, or, new technology like Jeff was talking about. Like there's some type of level of engagement. It's not just you talking at them. There's definitely that like coming together and working on something. We've seen big success in competition. I love competition a lot, so I'm always like, yep, have the kids compete. So it's okay to make it fun, have some laughs with the students. But it's important to be engaged with them and not just to be like physically present. If you don't have that driving passion, the students will notice. They're going to notice, and they're going to give you that same energy back. So if you're not kind of, investing your time and energy, they're not going to give you much back. So, but yeah, I do think that we've had a lot of success, like I said, on hands-on activity, competitions, making it fun, doing prizes, being silly sometimes too. I know you're sometimes like trying to get across a point or like a teaching moment, but you can add some laughs in there, make some jokes. I mean, I've built some things that I'm not super proud of that I'll put on display and be like, yeah, it happens. So, but yeah,
I mean, that's the real part, right?
real
Like
life.
what leads to innovation too.
Correct.
Madeline.
Yeah, so I think Michelle hit the nail on the head with talking about like tour guides and getting people involved. And Joanna touched on it too, like the energy that you bring, like those students are gonna give it back. So what we'll do, my light bulb moment with getting into manufacturing was visiting a plant and thinking, hey, yeah, this is something I could do. You know, I could be in this kind of environment with this kind of activity, and this kind of general chaos, if you will. So like what I like to do is I like to try to find that in other people. You can't force it. It's not going to happen always, but as a young woman, I like to find other young women, whether they're students or in the past, I had one of our quality inspectors help me lead a tour, and she's very passionate about the work that we do and the product that we make. And we had a couple of young girls on our group that, as we were walking through, you could see that they were just like, wow, yeah, this is something that I could do. Like, this is something that actually makes sense for a career, that I could be creative, that I can have this problem solving, and that it's not just cut and dry bunch of, stereotypes, if you will, about manufacturing, kind of break that down a little bit.
Jep, bring us home.
I think for this one with early career opportunities, I think being able to um, link what they're doing currently, whether it's they've got robotics club and STEM club and all of that, right? And so these kids are building robots, right? And programming these robots. They have no clue that's what they could actually be doing for work. I mean, we have robotics and different machines that needs the little bit of tinkering or programming, and they just don't know that, right? And so being able to do what they love to do, like build things and get their hands on things, coding, that's a huge thing. I think, and more anymore, it feels like the kids that are in high school or just getting out of high school, they want more of that hands-on, don't want to go the traditional bachelor degree, all of that route, right? They want to get into an apprenticeship type of program. They want to get their hands on something. They want to start somewhere in their career. And I think just giving them the exposure, the knowledge of what's available, and how it translates from that robotics program to, okay, now you're coding a robot to pick up boxes, right? It's really neat, and just being able to share that information and making it known to the new generation, I think it's really valuable.
Yeah, I think that's so important because there are so many kids that are involved in these different programs, Skills USA, different, robotics clubs and whatnot, but making sure that we are clearly showing them how what they are learning and doing there applies to the real world, that it's not just like, yes, you're having fun and you're making connections with your team and different things through that, but let's show you how you grow a really impactful career using that too. So, well, we are going to launch a whiteboard here. So another activity for everyone to participate in. And so as you see this whiteboard, you're going to be able to um, choose like a sticky note. There's different colored sticky notes over there. And this is where we want everyone we're here to learn from one another too, right? So grab a sticky note, and on there, we want you to answer. You can do this multiple times if you'd like. What's the most successful student engagement activity that you've tried? And then we will share some of this out, but you can take from others here, steal, right? Take other people's ideas and try them. So we'll take a few minutes here to, and then in just a moment too, we're going to open the floor up for some Q&A. So if you have questions, I know there have been a couple things popped in the chat. I'm going to shout out Clint Chapman there, who shared about roboticscareer.org as a good conversation starter too, which kind of goes back to the robotics, the things that they're doing while they're in school now. All right. I'm glad I got my glasses earlier because I can't read very
I
well.
see a lot of hands-on activities. Can anybody get more specific in their sticky note? What hands-on activities are you just
Yeah,
doing with your students?
that's a good question because I get that all the time of, people know they want to do hands-on activities but aren't sure what to do. So I think the more we can share on that would be great. What is a STEM trifecta?
I was just thinking that. I don't know.
Feel free to come off mute if you'd like to share what the STEM trifecta is. All kinds of cool stuff. Job shadowing. I love that somebody added job shadowing because this is something we've got to get kids more opportunities to really see what careers look like, and experience it a little bit more before they have to make those choices. And I was just down in Texas not long ago. Kids have to decide their career pathway, um, like December of 8th grade, so that as they move into high school for it, like that's a lot of pressure, especially if I haven't been able to see it. Awesome. Well, feel free to continue adding things to this board, but I do want to go ahead and open the floor for some Q&A here. We've got about 8 minutes. So you're welcome to type it in the chat. You're welcome to off mute if you have a question that you would like to ask. Mina, I see that you mentioned that you can explain the hands-on activity that you created. Please feel free to do so.
Thanks. Can you hear me okay?
We
Okay,
can.
great. So I work for a company called Phoenix Closures. So we're a manufacturer of injection molded plastic packaging, closures being a fancy word for caps that are used in multiple different industries. So it's really easy to recognize that item. Because you probably interact with it every day. So we really bank on that when we interact with students of all ages. And we try to find ways to turn the caps into little arts and crafts projects of their own, but that also give us an opportunity to explain a design feature that most people would have no idea that even exists, right? Like the magic of the engineering and the design that goes into something seemingly as simple as a cap. So some of the things that we've done are like we'll put a bunch of containers of different filled products out on a table, but they won't have their caps on them. And then we put a variety of caps on the table in front of those containers, and we ask the kids to match the right cap to the right container. And they intuitively can get it correct right away. But then what we get to talk about is, why is this cap the one that you chose for the orange juice carafe versus this cap is the one you chose for the gummy vitamins, which is probably a child-resistant closure. And then we get to explain to them why different functional features are really important, both for the consumer and for the manufacturer creating the part. And then another craft we did was to take just a small plastic cap, and we had a mini Polaroid camera. So we let the child decide if they wanted their picture taken. But then we had a die cut punch, like you can just get at a craft store, that would punch out the photo in a circle. And that mimics what we do in our process, where we have to die cut a liner. Like many of you are probably familiar with the seal that you would peel off of a jar of peanut butter. We actually insert that into the cap in our process and then send it to the fillers. So they get to punch their picture out of the film and then insert it into the cap. And we give them a little glue dot, because sometimes we glue the liners in and sometimes they're friction fit. So we talk through our process. And then we give them a little magnet to stick on the back, and then they get to take that home and it becomes a decoration for their locker. So we try to find ways that they can interact with the parts that we produce, but then also talk about the manufacturing and the design and the engineering and the quality, like kind of all wrapped into it while they're actively working with the item.
How applicable to life. Thank you for sharing that. I haven't seen, I know there was a question earlier in the chat about, it went back to the liability. And I think that somebody had shared there. So hopefully we got that question answered. Michelle.
Yeah, I think a few of these might be for me. So, you're right. I think the assumption is being made here in the question that we are hiring students who are 17 or under the age of 18. So we have collaborated heavily with our legal team and our employee law team to create a contract. We also pull in, which I saw in the ideas, we pull in the parents into the conversation. So they are involved at every step of hiring a minor. So definitely consult with your legal team. The other question here is, I would love to hear from Timken about the number of students they expose to the company. So from just a number standpoint, we hire about 40 co-ops throughout the year, and then also hire about 40 entry-level positions. And I'm happy to report that this year we're at about a 70% conversion rate. So those that co-opted or interned with us who accepted full-time roles. So it is a little biased, but I'm very proud of that.
I could just add a little comment to that too, Michelle. Is I know that we've had people that have taken part in our engineer for a day, like in high school, and then have become co-ops at Timken, and then have gone on to be full-time employees of Timken. So it really is kind of like getting your foot in the door early sometimes in terms of, sparking that interest. So, having that piece of engagement with engineer for a day then led them on to understand, yeah, I do find this interesting. I do want to know more about that, and then continuing on.
And the question just came in. When you say co-op, are those high schoolers?
Those are college students. The high schoolers are in at Timken, we call it the technical training program, but it's essentially an apprentice program, high school apprentice program.
Clint, I know that you said that you are willing to share briefly about the roboticscareer.org. Would you like to do that? You have
Yeah.
1 minute.
As far as that resource, it is added to a bunch of the high school counselors in Southwest Ohio are starting to use this aggressively as just conversation starters. What do you want? What do you want to do? And this website allows you to click on a bunch of proclivities you might be interested, and it rolls you out to an educational pathway. And then you can go back and click them off and choose something different. It's not anchored down in any way, shape, or form. After you get those certifications, after you get that degree, you can go back into into roboticscareer.org, add those certifications, and then it turns into a job, a job board. So as an ARM Institute member, the companies can flip the script and go proactive rather than reactive and say, hey, I'm looking for an employee in this subsection of the country. I'm looking for a robotics technician, a robotics integrator, and then say, hey, here's the 15 people in this area that I can actually reach out to and say, hey, I think I might have a position for you. Give me a call. So it is a great tool. It's free. That's the 4-letter F word. It is free, and so you can jump in and even create your own profiles. Even you, Jen, you can jump in there too. So, yes, and my other comment was we are open for tours. We just received the DRMA award for openness for allowing as many tours as possible, and so myself and our HR representative, Shannon Euler. We are the 2 chief tour guides of our company, and we do everything we can to say yes. And that, of course, includes Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and FRC teams and FX teams and high schools and interns and the whole lot. We just say yes and just figure out a date. So
I love that. Please say
that's
yes. More tours for more
yeah,
kids for everybody. Thanks
that's the
for
short
sharing
version.
it.
Absolutely.
So, real quick, we are here at time. So I want to thank all of our guests for joining us today and all of our speakers who are here from Timken. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom, your experience, and for everyone else who shared through the board. We will be sending a follow-up email with the recording from the webinar, as well as a one-pager that'll kind of wrap up all of the thoughts from today. And then we do have the Manufacturing Institute Workforce Summit coming up in October. And so Ira is going to share some information about that on the screen for us. Would love to see you attend that Workforce Summit in Charlotte this year. And then we also have our next segment in the solution series coming up on September 30th. So you can go ahead and start registering for that now. And then don't forget Manufacturing Day, October 3rd this year, but every day that we are inspiring the future is Manufacturing Day. So please visit mfgday.com if you would like to register any Manufacturing Day events there. Finally, you are going to get a survey from Ira that's going to launch here as soon as we wrap up. So please take a few moments just to respond to those questions. It is very helpful for us in knowing what you all are looking for and what your experience has been like. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for Timken for your support and for again sharing these invaluable insights with us. Everyone, please have a wonderful day.